Alec Wynne is a real estate broker who closed the biggest deal of his career by paying attention to something that many brokers skip. Find out his secret and hear what's giving him butterflies today.
We were able to show through lease accounting that we were able to positively impact the stock price about 10 cents a share. And that got the attention of the CFO and the CEO. It was a $140 million transaction. And for those of us that are in commercial real estate, that's akin to winning the Masters.
Welcome to New Lease On, where we talk about the latest in lease accounting and lease administration and share stories of changes in perspective and new beginnings. I'm your host, Matt Waters. Let's dive in. Alec, welcome to New Lease On.
Thanks, Matt. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so glad to have you on, and I'll share a little bit about our backstory. Basically, Alec and I met for the first time teaching a class together. We taught a class live at the Cornet Global Summit. It was one of the pre-classes that people have to take. It's a required class for the MCR program, the Master of Corporate Real Estate. And the class is called Real Estate's Impact on Financial Statements. And Alec and I both love teaching. But when we taught that class for the first time together, Alec told a story. And Alec, I hope you'll humor me and let me talk you into telling that story again. But basically, it's about a time where Alec, as a real estate broker, closed a massive transaction based on accounting knowledge. If you would, just tell us that story one more time.
Yeah. No, thanks, Matt. I don't mind sharing this story over and over again because it was very impactful for me professionally, personally. And like you say, it was the culmination of education that I had invested in. And when I was taking the very course that you and I are teaching, a light bulb went on for me because I had been challenged with trying to get this very large company to move their headquarters. And I knew it was the right thing to do, but I was missing that magic sauce that would convince the CFO and the CEO that it was the right thing to do for their organization. And so after taking this class, I realized something that the CEO had been saying pretty consistently if I had been listening, which I was, with the right ear to the CEO. He was very concerned that in the previous 10 years, his company, this is a big financial services company, they were not able to get their stock price out of a certain range. And that range was about $14 to $18. It sort of sat in that range for about a decade, plus or minus a year or so. And in any event, one of his big mandates for the C-suite was to figure out a way to get that stock price above $18 a share. So I filed that away. And then I also knew that they were having difficulty attracting talent. And so file that away. And then the third, probably one of the other bigger reasons for this move was that they were suffering from deterioration of brand. So even though they were headquartered in Denver and they were a global company, a lot of people didn't even know that they were headquartered in Denver who lived in Denver. So we sort of, extrapolated on that. If people in Denver don't know you're located here, then you definitely have an issue with the elevation of your brand. So after taking this class, that was the last piece that I needed to figure out how to show the C-suite that if you were to move, you would have significant savings on your real estate because they didn't need as much space as they had. This was a 420,000 square foot headquarters that we squeezed down into 350,000 square feet. So just from the real estate alone, there was a significant amount of savings. And then in addition to in the transaction, we created further savings. And so we were able to show through lease accounting that we were able to positively impact the stock price about 10 cents a share. And that got the attention of the CFO and the CEO. And I'll never forget this because it was about 2016 when I wrote the executive briefing with those three objectives in mind, wrote a briefing, sent it over to the head of real estate. This was Thanksgiving of 2016. He passed it on to the CFO and the CEO. And then in January, I got the green light to move their headquarters. It was still is the biggest transaction. I hope it I hope it's not the last one because that was pretty fun to do. But yeah, it culminated into a move of about 1,700 employees. It was $140 million transaction. And for those of us that are in commercial real estate, that's akin to winning the Masters in it, which is a golf tournament, right? I mean, it's a pretty big deal. So
Wow.
very honored to have been able to pull that off. But it came from learning lease accounting and certain things in that class that showed me how to message the transaction in the right way to the C-suite.
Mm, incredible. As I tell this story and retell it to people that work in the real estate profession,
Mhm.
what does that do for you as a broker, as a real estate professional, when you close that size of transaction? How does that affect you financially? How does that affect your reputation?
It impacts you in all those ways that you just mentioned. Financially, it was to protect the integrity of the numbers. It was definitely a seven-figure commission. And that's one of the attractions to this crazy business, especially when you're on the brokerage side, because you're typically a 1099 professional. You live on commissions and you make a living 100% on commissions. And so that's a daunting task as it is. So when you close a transaction like that, it gives you the ability to put significant money away for retirement. And it also gives you the ability to invest in commercial real estate, which is one of the things that we'll probably talk about later in the podcast, because I have a big passion now for teaching the next generation how to build their own commercial real estate portfolio. Because the ultimate game plan, Matt, for me, brokerage has always been a means to make a good living, but that's only where the story pauses for a second, because the real end game is to build a portfolio that creates passive income. So I don't have to rely on Social Security or things like that. And so for me, it's about keeping my eye on that long-term goal. And when you close a transaction of this size, yeah, it gives you the ability to buy. So I invested in two commercial real estate properties, and since that was 7 years ago, I have now parlayed that into two more, and then parlayed that into yet another. So I now have a portfolio of five commercial office properties, creating that passive income that I've always wanted to earn. So that's what it did financially. And then professionally, it puts you in a higher level in terms of how the corporate real estate community sees you as a professional when they see, wow, you handled the transaction from beginning to end of a move of a major corporation. This was a Fortune 500 company that had almost 2,000 people.
Uh-huh.
It really doesn't get any more complex than that. I mean, certainly there are some nuances that could have occurred in this transaction, but it was just pretty straightforward lease. So professionally, yeah, it puts you in a higher level in terms of being able to advise other large companies. Should they move their headquarters? Should they optimize their headquarters? Should they consider relocating their headquarters? So that's what it has done for me. Although many companies have not taken me up on moving their headquarters yet. So because it really has to be the right reasons, and it has to be the right environment.
Mhm.
I wrote the briefing at the perfect time with this particular C-suite. Now, I should mention that C-suite is entirely gone. So all of the folks that I did that transaction with are gone. And that's the other challenge in commercial real estate, is oftentimes the C-suite can change.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, different folks have different agendas or different goals and objectives. And so you can write a briefing and it can go out the window the next day because the C-suite changes. So, you have to be a master juggler, I would say,
Yeah.
as you navigate those waters.
That's great. Yes. It's like all the things that you hear. Timing is everything.
Mhm.
Location, location, location.
Yeah.
And when you need a little extra boost, who knows? Maybe lease accounting will help you get across the finish line, right?
That's right. That's right.
I love it.
And I should mention, Matt, to your point about timing, I didn't mention this in the summary, but I started the transaction actually in 2011. That was the first time that the discussion of moving the headquarters had started, but it
Mhm.
wasn't until 2017 that I actually closed the transaction. So it took 6 years to close the transaction.
Wow.
Yeah.
6 years to become an overnight success, right?
Oh, yes.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's great. That's such an encouraging story. I thank you for relaying it again, Alec. And so now shifting gears to your location, as we speak, I think you're kind of going through a big move And so, yeah, I'd love to hear about where you're moving from and to.
Yeah, so I've got butterflies again, Matt. So after 30 years of working in the Denver market, I decided to expand our company further into the Phoenix market. So, and I did that strategically because I had been buying commercial property in the Phoenix metro area since 2017, 2018. And then I just started really falling in love with the Phoenix area. I mean, just the weather here is absolutely perfect, but for July and August, I know it gets pretty hot here in the summer. But outside of that, it's absolutely gorgeous. And then my family lives west, so it moves me a little bit closer to my family. But from a business standpoint, Denver and Phoenix are very similar. They're very similar markets, and so it's been a natural progression for me so far. I have clients here already, and so I've hit the ground running with two very large clients. And my expectation is that hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll have a similar size office here in Phoenix. And that's really what I'm up to. So I didn't mention at the top, but I'm one of the three owners of Greenwood Commercial Real Estate. We're a corporate services advisor firm based in Atlanta. I run the West for the most part. So I was previously headquartered in Denver, and so I'll be obviously moving my headquarters, if you will, to Phoenix, but I'll still keep the Denver office running. So it's alive and well, and I'll be balancing both markets. So I'll be probably traveling back to Denver a couple times a month, and then as my clients need me, of course, I'll make those trips as the case may be. But in a nutshell, that's what my current plan is to grow this office for it to be at least on equal footing with Denver. But we'll see. You never know. I mean, it could take off and be larger than Denver. But
Yeah.
yeah, but the markets are very similar.
That's great and exciting. I know, a fresh start is always, as you mentioned, like a little bit nervous, a little bit exciting, but yeah, I can feel the optimism and yeah, wish you all the success in the world in Phoenix.
Yeah, thank you. It's the good kind of anxiety, right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
we tend to do our best when we're pushed into a corner, and not that I was pushed. I pushed myself into this corner. So,
Yeah.
but I felt like at this stage of my life, it was a calculated move, and but the butterflies are there, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the future will bring toward us.
Cool. So, Alec, tell me, in the commercial real estate space, what do you think the hottest thing is right now?
Pretty resoundingly, I would say, is artificial intelligence.
Mm.
But I mean, come at it from a little bit of a different angle because I think a lot of people talk about it because there's fear that it's going to eliminate jobs, that it's going to change your
Mhm.
industry. Yes, change is constant, change is real, change is in everything, and it is going to change our industry. But the way we are looking at it, because we have a very consultative approach to our business, we're looking at it from the perspective of how can it help us be faster, smarter, better. And so I am constantly amazed at how fast the various tools within the AI toolkit is learning and growing.
Mm.
And so we're putting in real case studies, and what comes back to us is amazing. It's as if, there's another 30, 40-year-old veteran, spitting back the responses to us.
Uh-huh.
And in several cases, we have found that these agents will think of nuances or strategies that we didn't contemplate. And it's okay. We don't take ourselves so seriously that we think we know all the answers. And I think that's why we're taking a different perspective in terms of how we look at AI. And so I would say that that is, yeah, absolutely the hottest thing in commercial real estate right now. And we're just trying to keep a positive outlook on it. And so far, I can tell you that it's working for us. Our firm recently won two very large assignments that we've been told that the other big firms that I'll leave the names out of it, but the big firms that we were competing against, we had shown brilliantly above whatever materials they had put in front of this particular client. And so if it's used in the right way, I think it can give you an advantage. And so don't be discouraged by it eliminating jobs because it will continue to eliminate jobs. But I would look at it from the glass half full standpoint and say to yourself, how can I use it to make me better and therefore serve my clients better, faster? And I think that would be my advice to those that are tuning in is to, yeah, don't be afraid of it, embrace it, and
Hmm.
figure out how you can use it to the best of your ability.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great advice and completely agree. Yeah. Appreciate your perspective on that for sure, Alec. And so now I'll tell you what, let's wrap it up with a podcast question because I know you have started a podcast as
Oh, yeah.
well. And of course, we've got a lot of folks tuning in who like real estate related podcasts. So tell us about your new venture.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, so this is a big passion of mine for a number of reasons. The things that we're trying to, I would say, elevate are really very simple. The first is to teach everyone how to build their own commercial real estate portfolio because oftentimes it could be very scary or daunting. And not a lot of people know how to invest in commercial real estate. It seems to be too complex or maybe too expensive. I don't have enough to get invested. But once we go through this journey with them and get them to understand, hey, you don't have to have $1 million to buy or invest in a commercial property. You can syndicate. You can go in a transaction with 5 or 6 family members and have a piece of a transaction. And
Hmm.
so that is the soundbite that I want to share with all the listeners because one of the things that pushed me into that space was my mentor told me, hey, if you're going to call yourself a real estate expert, you have to own some commercial real estate
Hmm.
because it changes your perspective, not only as an investor, but also as a consultant advisor, because now you start to understand the whole life cycle of real estate. And by me doing that, he was exactly right. Once I got through the first acquisition, I learned a ton, and then we carry that forward to the next acquisition and so forth and so on. And now I'm getting to the point to where I fully understand it. And when you become a known, proven commodity, then transactions or acquisition opportunities start to filter toward you. So that's the maturation process of real estate investing. But so that's the first objective of the podcast is to educate, the audience on you don't have to be in commercial real estate. You could be a IT person, you could be administrative person, you could be someone in the legal field, a dentist, firefighter. It doesn't matter. If you have $5 or $10,000 that you've saved up and you don't want to put it in the volatile stock market and you want to put it into something that's a little more fixed, then this would be one way you can do it. And so that's one of the tenets of the podcast. The second is to address and I'll just be very direct and transparent, to address the lack of diversity in the industry. And
Hmm.
so that's been a big passion of mine. And I always tell the story, when I first started in Denver, first of all, Denver is not the most diverse city. So I got to, qualify that coming there. But there weren't that many in the industry, and so in 30 years, there's only been a doubling of the number of people of color in the industry in Denver. I'm only speaking to Denver. But then when I launched Greenwood and we started to look at diverse talent across the country, we realized very quickly that there weren't that many in the entire US.
Hmm.
So our mission is to really appeal to women and people of color because those are the two groups of people that have been less represented in the industry. And so our objective as Greenwood, which the podcast is an extension of, is to build the most diverse company in commercial real estate. That's our goal. So with that being part of our objectives as a company, my personal objective is I feel like I have a responsibility to help in that regard.
Uh-huh.
So when we started the podcast, we always make sure to tell people this is for everybody, irrespective of race, color and gender. But our goal is real simple. We just want to teach people how to create wealth through commercial real estate. And it just so happens that we have this platform that we can do it from. That's the reason for the podcast.
Cool. Awesome. So what's the name of the podcast and where can we subscribe?
I can put a shameless plug in.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
Thanks. Yeah, it's brick by brick commercial wealth, and we're hosted on YouTube. And I think we have four episodes up right now. We're working on the episode 5 as we speak.
Awesome. Well, I'll be tuning in, and I'm sure a bunch of our listeners here will join me. So I have to ask you one more question.
Yes.
On LinkedIn, just a little bit, I've documented a few personal goals. One of them is a bench press goal that I have. And I found out through LinkedIn comments that in college, Alec, you hit 315-pound bench press. I didn't know you're such a beast. Tell me about
Yeah.
that story.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, similar to you, I had athletic goals, weightlifting goals, and I was always the scrawny kid growing up. And so for me, it was a goal that I set for myself to see if I could get close to the football players, right? And
Mhm.
going to a big university like UCLA, I mean, these guys are massive in size, and so I couldn't quite get to the levels that they were at. But at the time, I was only 155 pounds and I thought, "Can I really lift that much weight?" And so the
Mhm.
first goal was 300, and then it became 315.
Mhm.
I still remember when I did it, much like your video, when I saw yours, the guys in the room didn't think that I could lift it because I was pretty skinny.
Right.
So when I did it, I did 2 reps actually, so just because
What?
I'm that person, yeah, I have so the second one was a lot harder than the first, but yeah, I did it, and I haven't touched it since, Matt. I probably can't get even 225 now, but
Wow. Well, that's impressive. I mean, especially at that weight, right?
yeah,
165 pounds.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you're near doubling your body
yeah,
weight.
that's exactly right,
Wow.
yeah,
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 that is impressive.
yeah,
Well, Alec, always a pleasure talking with you. Again, wish you much success in your new office and moving to Phoenix and on the podcast. I'll be tuning
yeah.
in to Brick by Brick, and yeah, always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for joining us. I'd be grateful if you would like and subscribe wherever you listen. Perhaps today is your day to get a new lease on. Would you like to learn more about lease accounting? Check out the CGLA program. That's Certified Global Lease Accountant. You can earn 16 hours of CPE credit, study at your own pace, and earn the CGLA professional designation. Find out more at cglainstitute.com.